The real horror of this situation is the endless years of doomed advances I had to suffer at the hands of my old coworker. That tub of lard never stopped. During the time that we worked together at a little place called Pizza, I was the victim of endless conversations that I couldn't care less about, incessant veiled requests for coffee dates and gross, longing stares from that pale, fleshy face. Danny and I went to high school together, so I have no idea how he was so completely blind to the differences in our social standing. Not to be a bitch about it, but I was way out of his league. Still am. And besides, even if I wasn't, he knew that I had that thing with Preston. Everybody knew about that thing with Preston. Anyway, now that I'm a mom, I'm trying to be a little kinder, and that includes the way I frame things. So, let's say this, okay? That fat dude had a crush on me, and I definitely didn't like him back. And can I be real for a second? Danny still works at that place. Like, we're fully grown adults now, and he still works there. But Daniel Kruger is not the person I'm going to be talking about. The reason that I'm mentioning him is because this incident occurred after a long night shift at a little place called Pizza. Danny and I were working the counter together when he wasn't out making deliveries, which meant that by the end of the night, I was in a bad mood. Tuning out a desperate man's lumbering, clumsy attempts at being suave will do that to a person. I don't think I listened to a single word he said that night, but I'm also pretty sure that he never stopped talking to me. God, why is it named a little place called Pizza? What a stupid name. But then again, Landon is a stupid man. Wait. Susanna. Framing. Okay, let's say this. Landon is a man of less than average intelligence. When the shift was over and our final customer, an old man with a rain jacket and a beard who had been sitting in our dining room for hours and hadn't even taken a bite out of their pizza, stumbled out of the building, we locked the place up and shut off the lights. Thankfully, Danny parked in the back lot and I parked on the street, so I was able to avoid an awkward goodbye and another charmless pass, and simply slipped out of the front and onto the drenched road beyond. I don't think my parents could have picked a wetter place to raise a family in. Not only is my hometown next to the briny, murky Pacific, I think it might also sometimes be underneath it and we just don't realize. This was one of those nights. The rain was thick, like the invisible ceiling holding back the ocean over top of us had been smashed. The dense fog wasn't helping either. It was a warm summer night, so the air had a dewy, salty taste to it, which settled on my tongue as I left the building. The quiet, small business district was dark around me. A few street lamps peppered the sidewalks. As I crossed to my car, I noticed someone walking on my left, and the reason I noticed them was because I could see that they were not wearing weather-appropriate clothes. A long, white t-shirt was covering their thin frame, and skinny dark pants were drenched and plastered against even skinnier legs. This person wasn't racing either. They were walking slowly, deliberately. Step, step, step. Splash, splash, splash. Following the sidewalk that led towards me. It's like they didn't even care about the rain. Like they didn't even notice it. But for a few seconds, this person was just an object of curiosity. I held my car keys in my hand and stared at them. But when they passed under the bluish light of a street lamp, my heart dropped in my stomach. This person, this underdressed, soaked lady was smiling, and the fixed, huge grin was not normal. If you've ever seen a smile like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. Hers was pinned on her face. It didn't move or shift or lower at all. And the worst part? She was looking directly at me. I pushed the button to unlock my car, but the lights didn't flash, which was a problem I had been dealing with around then. My key fob was on the fritz. I remember cursing at myself, turning to the left and seeing that woman get closer and closer. I pulled out the manual key from the fob and raced around to the driver's side of my car. In my haste, I slipped in a puddle and went crashing, splashing to the ground, ruining the hair that my stylist had spent 2 hours on. I scrambled, pushing my hands against the pavement beneath a small sea of water. As I stood back up, I could see that the woman was close, too close. Her large, wide eyes were fixed on me, and her smile seemed to grow, if that was even possible. She stared at me and walked and walked and walked, as if she was on the treadmill at the gym. I fumbled with the keys in my hand, desperately trying to push into my car door to unlock it manually. It was one of those tense, panicked moments where you revert back to being a toddler, meaning my fine motor skills deserted me. My baby can barely pick up a giant block, and honestly, that night I might have struggled with that task too. I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to open my car door, as the smiling lady kept coming closer and closer. When she reached the edge of my vehicle, she left the sidewalk, rounding around the back of the trunk literally seconds from where I was standing. And then my key slipped into the door. I turned it. The car clicked. I viciously ripped open the door and threw myself into the interior, diving out of the rain. I slammed the door and locked it. I turned the vehicle on just as the woman reached the driver's side window. I refused to look at her, but I know she was smiling down at me. Of course she was smiling down at me. Thankfully, she didn't try to open the door. She just stood there, right outside my car like some sort of busker. I peeled away from a little place called Pizza, disappearing into the night. I was completely soaked, rainwater dripping from every part of me. In my rearview mirror, I saw that woman standing there on the wet street, staring after my car. That smile was still on her face, visible in the dim blue and wider than ever. When I got back home, Preston came over to keep me company. I was pretty rattled by the experience, and I needed him. And the next day, I went to Yuri's and got that key fob fixed. I never saw that smiling lady again. If I ever do, when she comes close to me and my kid, I'm going to deck her in the face.